Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to the Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Today, our guest is Michael Haynes. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, and looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. So, Michael, let us know where you live and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Michael Haynes. I am a business growth specialist. I focus on working with small and medium B2B accounting firms, CFO advisory firms, and B2B technology companies to develop and implement their holistic growth, or what we often call go-to-market strategies. And I'm based here in sunny Sydney, Australia. It's wintry Sydney, Australia. Based here in Sydney, Australia, but I work with clients globally, predominantly Australia, Canada, US, and in Asia Pacific.
Awesome. So, Michael, who are your ideal clients? Obviously, in this niche, there are different type of businesses and people. So who are your ideal clients?
So my ideal clients are your small and medium. I work with a subset of professional service firms. So your small and medium B2B accounting firms, CFO, chief financial advisory firms, do a lot of strategic financial advisory, advice and support, as well as your B2B technology companies. And I've worked with a range, Qasim, with the technology companies, managed service providers, IT consultants. I've worked in ed tech, fintech, risk management, project management. So quite a broad range on the tech side. So your accounting, CFO, and B2B tech companies, your small, medium, growing companies, those are the ones that I work with on their holistic cross-functional growth strategies to drive client acquisition, retention, as well expansion and overall growth.
So when you talk about that the tech field, so I'm from the tech field. So in the tech company, I have observed this thing that many founders, in fact, in every business, many founders are handling more responsibilities, like they are wearing a lot of hats. But in the tech world, you can say like sometimes one founder is a CTO, finance manager, you can say, and the same person is in operations as well. Like they're handling different type of jobs. So do you think that there should be some awareness for these type of founders? Because obviously everybody knows like always a time when you have to delegate your responsibilities to someone else. But is there any awareness that can be given to these founders? Okay, so when you are at X stage, you should delegate this responsibility.
Yes. Okay. So in terms of when you're thinking about growth, yes, founders, like many small, medium business owners, are wearing multiple hats. And so in terms of thinking about, the business growth, how you're going to expand into new markets, develop new revenue streams, you may not necessarily need to delegate, but you need to start thinking about how you're going to approach doing so. And you may want to get some outside support, whether it being getting independent consultants such as myself. You may want to bring in a fractional person similar to myself who may work with your firm, 1 or 2 days a week, or at that key cycle period when the business is doing their growth strategy and planning. You might bring someone in, such as myself, to come in to do a workshop, to bring the appropriate people together within the business to be planning out and mapping what the growth strategy needs to be. So it's not necessarily about delegating away per se. It's about getting the necessary knowledge, skills, and support in order to do so. Because in the world of B2B, it is becoming quite competitive. How our buyers buy in the world of professional services, and I put technology as part of that, how our buyers buy, it is complex. There are more decision makers, how they go about doing their buying. It's complex. It is not easy, and so you need to be developing the right kind. You need to find the right opportunities and develop the right strategies based around how your buyers are actually doing their buying and decision making. So that takes some thinking, some planning, strategy, and execution.
Well, this is the learning number 1 in this podcast. That's good. Awesome. So, Michael, I'm not sure, like in this field, how much the marketing side is involved. Because I think, like this is my personal opinion. I think maybe at this side, the business works more like on word of mouth, or maybe the PR, maybe the personal relations, sort of like that. So do you think the marketing is also involved in your business or not?
Okay, so marketing is a component of your growth strategies, but it will not be the only component. So in terms of when you're thinking about your growth strategies, you need to be thinking about, first of all, identifying what are the right opportunities in terms of, I'm talking from a B2B perspective, what are the right industry verticals, what are the right geographic markets? You need to understand, what are the kinds of, product, service offerings and solutions you're going to be offering, including, service and support, etc., consulting, reporting. So how do you construct the right kinds of solutions and offerings? So that takes a fair bit of work as well. Marketing and sales will be a component. So how are you going to acquire those clients as well as retain and grow them? So marketing is a component of it, but it's not the only component. Your growth strategy is going to involve, if we think from a functional perspective, it's going to involve your products and services. It's going to involve operations, service and support and delivery. It is going to involve potentially training, learning, and development, because you may be dealing with senior level folks, executive engagement. So doing the likes of roundtables, panels, summits, those kinds of things to engage very senior level people may be a key component. And as well, it is going to evolve around what is your, plans around acquisition, retention, and expansion, which could involve strategic partnerships. So marketing is a component, but it's not the only component of your growth strategy. But it is a part, but needs to be developed as part of the overall growth strategy for the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in your point of view, networking and strategic partnerships are important for the business growth, because we are talking about the growth. So if they are important for the growth of any business, how much they are important? Like they are a smaller part or a bigger part? Because nowadays I can see in the industry, this is something that is viral. Like everybody is talking about the strategic partnerships and the networking, especially after the COVID.
Yeah. Okay. So great question. So networking partnerships. So strategic partnerships often component of your overall growth strategies. But again, it is going back to understanding, some of the principles of what are the industries you're going after, what are the kinds of organizations you're going after. And it's really coming back ultimately to understanding the decision makers. For your products, services that you're offering, you need to fundamentally have a strong understanding of who are the decision makers. So who makes the decisions to buy? What are their priorities and how do they buy? One of the key characteristics within B2B professional services, so it's common across the likes of if you're working in IT, accounting, consulting, etc., is that the way in which buyers are buying now, they make that decision as to whether I'm going to go with your technology company or someone else's technology company, your accounting firm, someone else's. Is that the fundamental underlying question decision makers are making is not how do I solve, but it is now who can help me solve? Who can help me go into this new market? Who can help me with mergers and acquisitions? So because the question is often very much around who, decision makers are often very much tapping into networks. So experts, people, organizations, groups, etc. That is where they're going to get advice, what I call AIR, advice, insights, and recommendations. They're tapping into people, groups, they're tapping into networks. So you really need to understand your market. You need to understand the decision makers, the buyers, the clients, how they buy, and that will determine where and with whom you need to be collaborating with in order to gain access to work with and to gain access to those clients and prospects that you see.
Awesome. That's a good explanation, I believe. Like, because sometimes things become like people just meet the flow, and when things become viral, they just start following those things blindly. But yeah, the main point is the identification that, as you mentioned, like you have to identify. Awesome.
So just one final point
Yeah.
to add to that. So yes, so networking collaborations is important, but it is about strategic networking. So you need to be thinking through what is the goals of the organization. Who are we trying to target? What industries are we operating in? Who are the decision makers?
Yeah.
Who are we trying to gain access to and collaborating with? And then working out where and with whom we need to do so. So what podcasts, what events, what mastermind groups, what communities, what events should we be going through to gain access to the potential strategic partners we're trying to get through, potential clients and prospects. So it needs to be strategic networking so you know where and with whom you need to be putting your efforts and focus to, and not just blindly going to every 6 p.m. strategic cocktail drinks all over your respective cities and regions and then not getting anything from it, which I've seen lots of people spend lots of money and time doing so. It has to be strategic network. So you have to plan that out as a strategy and then work out where and with whom you need to focus your efforts.
Awesome. Michael, many companies just burn out and shut down every day because they were facing a lot of challenges and they were not able to cope up with those challenges. So I believe every company, every business owner faces a lot of challenges, and like every day there is a new challenge. And I believe if we minus these challenges, then the life will be boring. So have you ever faced, obviously you must have faced many challenges. Can you share one interesting challenge with us, and if you can let us know how you were able to cope up with it?
Sure. And you're quite correct. Being an entrepreneur myself, I have faced many challenges. So while I advise and work with companies, I have faced them. And anyone who tells you that they haven't, then they're lying to you. I would say one of my big challenges, I'm going to go back to 2020, 2021, the dreaded old COVID era, of which we all want to forget. But back then, everything being in lockdown and we were doing a lot of things remote, trying to figure out what was going to be working, how to cut through to some of the decision makers I am trying to target. And I work with a lot of small and medium and probably more medium-sized companies now. So I'm trying to get into that founder, that C-suite level. And, all the experts were saying, you need to find what works, do your email marketing, do your email sequences, and all of that. And I was trying, Qasim, some of those techniques of what the expert were saying about doing, these email sequences and doing all of that wasn't working. And I was racking my brain. Okay, well, maybe it's the copy. Got a new freelance copywriter and talk to some, and I'm trying to tweak different things, but it really wasn't working. And it wasn't till I started to do some further research and then starting to talk to some of my clients and prospects, for some of my current clients and some prospects that I wanted to have, that I was starting to find, okay, the shift was not so much around doing these long sequences of email, but it was finding that bringing people together. So doing the likes of roundtables, live discussion, that were bringing these decision makers together where they could have a chance to ask me questions, interact with each other. That was what was going to break through. So it was doing some experimentation with no success. Well, not no success, very limited success with that whole chain of email sequences and all of that. And then talking to clients, talking to prospects, understanding what they were doing, how they were shifting their behaviors, where they were going, what were their key questions and where they were going, that I started to shift my approach in terms of, yes, I definitely put out content, but that whole email sequencing thing, I've kind of pretty much thrown that out. And I do put out content periodically, but I tie it with doing various events. It might be in person, a lot of online as well. And that for me has given me massive cut through. So just an example of sometimes as entrepreneurs, we often will have to experiment and try. And just because experts say, oh, you should do A, B, C, it may or may not work for you depending on your business, the clients you're going after, and what it is your clients and customers are doing. It's not necessarily going to be the tried and true, because I thought, oh, all I have to do is, put out my email sequences and then, okay, it's all set, it's all going to work. And yeah, so my bottom line is that you've got to experiment, talking to your clients, talking to prospects. So those who aren't your clients yet, but you'd like to be, you will get lots of learning when you speak to both groups of I'll call them customer groups per se. When you speak to them, you'll get good insights that can help you modify your business and how you're doing things in the right way.
Awesome.
That makes sense.
So, Michael, as an advisor, what are your differentiators?
What are my differentiators? Great question. So my differentiator is that I take a very buyer-driven approach. So I am very data-driven, but I am making sure that we always get a very clear, all of my clients, it's about making sure we have a very clear understanding of how our buyers buy. And I do a lot of work of that in the B2B professional services space. And so I've gained an in-depth understanding around that. And then I help my clients develop the strategies around that. And I have a framework that I've developed about that is tailored about being buyer driven in a B2B professional services context, tailored very much for small and medium business.
Awesome. So, Michael, what would be your biggest piece of advice for our audience? Our audience is, again, the entrepreneurs and the ones who are dreaming to be their own boss.
Okay, my biggest piece of advice is something I've just alluded to with my previous example, is that you must what I call listen to the market. So you must be talking to current clients that you have as to their priorities, needs, challenges, and how they buy. Where do they go for advice, insights, recommendations? You want to talk to current clients, but also talk to prospects, so those who are not your clients, but you want them to be. You want to talk to both of those. But having those discussions, and you don't have to spend a lot of time getting onto doing a call on Zoom, Google Teams, and asking those questions, but documenting them and recording with them. You do a few of those, you'll get some clear understanding and some patterns of what is going to be important. And I guarantee you will gain some.
That's a beautiful advice for sure. So, will you please let our viewers know how they can reach you? Well, awesome, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and literally, I love a lot of things. So, thank you. Stay in touch, and hopefully, we will meet again. Likewise, thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.